What, was it destroyed by an evil hipster? Or maybe an evil clarinet? Why is it that both of those are things in this franchise? We opened this week with Madoka recollecting the events of last week when she spoke out directly against her father's words. And judging by his reaction, that might have been the first time his daughter spoke so assertively against him. This was backed by the fact that things were more than a little awkward between them. Hey, actual tension between the father and daughter. Alright, it's been a little while, but I guess I can get into this, so never mind, I just lost all of my enthusiasm. Yes, right after the opening, which by the way no longer includes the movie preview, sadly, we cut over to the Notarayos HQ and more of Darkness complaining about the Twinkle imagination. With 2/5 of it found already, he sent supposedly his strongest minion to retrieve Fua before its completion. Good luck to you, Kane. Okay, what was his name again? Yeah, never mind, you're both just a couple of oversized jobbers. Cutting back to the pre-cure and an assembly at their school, the old student council was passing the reins down to the new staff, which of course included the new president, who thankfully didn't turn into a creepy planet head thing again. Nah, but seriously, Sakurako was great in this scene as she assured Madoka that she wouldn't need to become the pre-cure while she was around to protect her school. Good stuff that Madoka was even able to share with her parents. Though while Magic Knight Hikaru was happy for her, Sesshomaru wasn't nearly as congratulative, instead reminding her of her upcoming study abroad in London because of course the upper class pre-cure has to deal with this during the climax of her arc. Later that night, Madoka confronted her father, who assured her that his Men in Black days were done, as his higher-ups had put the kibosh on his department. So, yeah, that little arc is just done, but Mr. Kaguya wasn't complaining, as he was simply following any and all of his orders from his superiors, and believed that philosophy should be shared with everyone in his family, in particular his daughter. In his mind, everything he had done was in Madoka's best interest, as her many awards and achievements could attest. Or at least that was the measuring stick he used, as Madoka herself was unsure. The next day in school, the show about astronomy finally brought up some real-life astronauts, in this case Neil Armstrong, and his famous first words after landing on the moon. Though this wasn't for an astronomy class, but rather an English class where they corrected his famous words that commonly omit an A between for and man. Supposedly, the A was lost because of a combination of radio interference and Armstrong's thick Ohioan accent. It's actually a really fascinating little bit of historic trivia that I originally learned myself from Hysteria. Anyone remember the show? This was very significant for this episode, not just because of the obvious moon connections, but we'll get to that in just a minute. For now, after picking up some more of their blatant product placement, the pre-cure were going to sit down to have a little snack after school. And Uni, as she's been doing for the last couple of episodes, just appeared out of nowhere. Are you really bringing that up now of all times? Seriously, this week's episode was written by Murayama, and I can't help but feel like that was him delivering a jab to the writing staff. Anyway, they all sat down to eat their pumpkin donuts by the look of it. How seasonal. However, Madoka couldn't enjoy hers, having become unsure of what to do with her life. After all, she had relied on the influence of others, whether it be her father or the sun that is her teammate that ensures the moon stands out thanks to reflecting its light. Thus, unlike Neil Armstrong, Madoka felt like she hadn't taken her first steps based solely on her own volition. Again, this all kind of feels familiar. Still, Elna, much like back in episode 9, comforted her teammate with even a flashback and direct parallel to really hammer it in. Well, that, and the fact that their characters really haven't developed that much since that episode, but hey, who cares about the little details? But yeah, it really goes to show that these two really needed more episodes together. And just like Uni a minute ago, Gallagher appeared out of nowhere when the plot demanded him. I'm guessing it has even more power over him than even Darkness. They transform, with me being reminded why I don't care for Madoka and her over auto-tuned singing. Anyway, going into the fight, Lala used her literal main character shields, but being a total glass cannon, Gallagher managed to easily break it. The rest of the team fight from here wasn't anything special. Gallagher did use some interesting warp abilities, but then we got stuff like the team using the Naruto run as though they were trying to get into Area 51. Thankfully, after taking out 4/5 of the Precure with a mini spirit bomb, the real fight this week started as it became a one-on-one between Madoka and Gallagher, and we suddenly got a legitimately impressive Sakuga fest. Both characters just started moving at 80 miles an hour while still remaining highly detailed, like almost overly so. Seriously, there's a reason I used this frame as the thumbnail this week. It's desktop worthy. I swear, I legit thought that Masami Obari took over for a minute, but then I remembered that there's no Happy Robo in this episode. But still, good job to, Francis Kaneda? As in, the Kaneda who was the key animator for most of the Washio era? Jeez, talk about pulling out your big guns at the last minute. I mean, to be fair, he has done some episodes this season, but this is probably the closest we've gotten to that good old school Washio animation in a long time, so I gotta give credit. It was especially needed in this fight in order to really get across Gallagher's resolution. Through his punches, he expressed his absolute devotion to his master. However, even though I'm honestly a little more sold on Gallagher, this is still Madoka's episode, and after exchanging blows with someone who was willing to give everything to someone else, she started to take her first small steps of her choosing. And while she of course appreciated her father for guiding her this far, it was time for her to shine in yet another well-animated Kaneda sequence. And again, we couldn't keep this amazing momentum going, as of course we still had to work this buzz killer in. Thus, once again, in spite of being built up like he's supposed to be a Knight of Cerebes, Gallagher was taken out in a single episode. My condolences, my friend. Perhaps you should consider pursuing politics in Knoxville County. With that, the animation took a sharp nosedive, and later, Madoka confronted her father, of course to turn down study abroad in London. Which honestly just makes me wonder, why was this even included as a plot point here? And this little rebellious act, for whatever reason, made Mr. Kaguya realize the error of his ways, because along with the alien hunting, I guess he's not going to contribute much of anything else in this series. Thus, the episode ended naturally with Madoka declaring that while her first footsteps were small, they were a big leap for mankind. While this series overall still suffers from a severe lack of build-up and poor booking, I will say at the very least, the theming of this episode was quite effective, and that one-on-one fight in the middle was pretty darn good. I mean, if they were going to job out poor Gallagher for a third time, at least they made it look good. While I did become lukewarm to Elena and Madoka's motifs as the sun and the moon respectively, this episode did bring those back into focus, and in the case of the latter, used it effectively through metaphors and of course the first man on the moon. Putting aside her turbulent arc and the parallels to one of my favorite blues of all time for a minute, I did like the idea of Madoka feeling like she had no volition over her life. It's consistent with how much of a stick in the mud her father is and how much it has clearly affected her. Thus, of course she would want to become as brave as Armstrong when he took his first steps on unexplored terrain. This paralleled well with Gallagher, who had become a blind follower to darkness, just like her father to the Japanese government. That doesn't mean I don't feel bad for the poor guy, especially when he gets jobbed out in this one episode rivalry, which, yeah, let's get into that, and the other problems I had with this episode. As Uni pointed out, this series has lacked a lot of focus to evenly spread out all of these character arcs. As a result, while it actually makes sense to close the Kaguya family's arcs this close to the final episodes, it doesn't feel like they should, as the father and daughter have been so out of focus throughout the series. Mr. Kaguya especially became a non-entity after episode 12, only really starting to take a stance again last week. And now this week, he just gives up on being both an alien hunter and a stern father. For all of his talk, he kind of comes off as a bit of a quitter here. And speaking of looking weak, I don't understand why the show keeps trying to build up Gallagher as the strongest of the generals and yet still have him lose in the same episode. The fact that he was taken out by one precure doesn't do him any favors. I mean, I really don't want to have to call him a jobber, both because the show really needs an actually antagonizing antagonist, but I also kind of feel for the poor guy. Yes, he's blindly following his master, but that kind of dedication should earn him some recognition. I guess having one of the best fights of the season kinda makes up for it, but come on, throw the guy a bone. Overall, while I did enjoy this episode, mostly for the fight, I really wish we could have also gotten a little more invested in all three of these characters. And with the series finale in sight, I can't imagine many other investments paying back much in the end. If you haven't seen it yet, which I doubt since I had to post it twice, thank you very much, Toy, I just posted my review of Doki Doki Precure's solo film outing. While it did have some significant issues in its latter half, I still think it's one of the best Precure films of recent memory, and I really enjoyed reviewing it. Before Happiness Charged though, I'm just going to do a brief non-Precure video because honestly I just feel like making it to relieve some stress due to recent times. Don't worry, it'll still be entertaining, that much I can promise. And until then though, farewell for now my friends, and to all my Knoxville viewers out there, I gotta say, y'all have the coolest mayor ever. Kane is a damn legend.